not only teaching, but even just applying in my own business. This is how I have been able to distinguish myself from every other business coach in the universe, because the truth is, if you're not a business coach, if you're on the outside of the business coaching field, we're all the same, and that makes sense. So my hope is that by the end of this, or through this, you'll understand how I'm different, but more importantly, you will be intrigued to be able to answer the question, how are you different? So let's start. I have to apologize, there's a little bit of a delay between apparently my fingers and the laptop, so there may be some disjointed pauses as we wait for the slide. 60 seconds about me. As I mentioned, my name is Patrick Lyons. I'm a business coach. The name of my company is Culture by Design. The concept is that your business culture is always being shaped and poked and prodded, and whether you're a solopreneur or whether you're a company of 150,000, and you can either be intentional about designing and implementing a great place to work, which would be a culture by design, or you can kick back and allow it to happen without a lot of influence, and that's a culture by default. What you need to understand is you get one or the other. Which one do you want? So I have, as I said, this is my company. The Culture by Design, working to design great places to work. That's a passion. I also run a small business coaching group. It's called the Small Business Rocket Ships. That's one of my major products. Oops, yeah, see, I'm going to hit this multiple times. That is me, under 700 pounds of family. That is my wife, she's the smart one at the top. And then my 5 children. My daughter was kind of having a moment. If you probably can't see from where you are, but all the blood vessels in my head are popping. Because that's a lot of people, but it's just your standard average picture of a big family on a red couch in the middle of an open field. Because who doesn't do that? Since this is a presentation about discovering your why, I want to start by telling you my why. My why is that I believe there is greatness inside every single human being. This is a non-negotiable for me. And I've never said that to people and had them say, well, I don't believe that. I mean, most people inherently believe, yeah, everybody has greatness. But it really drives everything that I do. It drives how not just my business, it drives me in my relationship with my wife, it drives me as a dad, it drives me in my friendships, in my hobbies. It makes sense of everything that I've ever done, that I hated, that I loved. It makes sense of my product development and my business, and it makes sense of where I want to go in the future. What I've learned is that more often than not, when I'm not achieving my greatness, it's not what's going on around me, it's what's going on inside me. It's me holding me back. It's me talking me out of it. And as I've worked with more and more people, that is a common story. That more often than not, when you're not achieving your greatness, it's you not head up, shoulders back, walking it out, making it happen, owning it. So here's what we're going to cover today. We are going to have story time, because everybody loves a good story. Then we're going to talk about why we buy. Then we're going to talk about discovering your why. And then more importantly, since this is a business-focused presentation, what the heck do you do with it in your business once you know what it is? Now, I would be shocked if you know what your why is by the end of this presentation. It really takes some work on your own, but I want to give you enough that you can hopefully go off and start exploring that. But we'll have to assume midway through that, let's say you have your why, now what do you do with it? That's how we'll wrap up how to leverage it. Story time. Pull up a chair or pull up a rug. I've always thought it'd be cool to do a big rug and have everybody just sit down like we're in first grade, because who doesn't miss that? Okay, story time. I want to tell you about the licensed massage therapist. Once upon a time, there was a licensed massage therapist. And she sat down with a business coach, we'll call him Patrick, about 3 months ago, hypothetically, of course. And he asked her, he said, how many, he had no clue, how many licensed massage therapists would you say there are in the Portland metro area? And her answer was, she said, about 1,000, which honestly really surprised me. I thought, holy crow, that's a lot. I said, really? She said, oh yeah, there's a lot. I said, okay, so what makes you different? If someone were to call you and say, hey, I see that you're one of 1,000 and you're the first call I'm making, why should I come to you instead of the other 999? And she said, oh, that's easy. The technique that I use is very different. The technique, my particular style of massage, only about 5% of licensed massage therapists use that. I said, okay, no offense, no one cares. And I don't mean that. I do mean it. That's important to her, obviously. It's important to other licensed massage therapists. But if you were to call your licensed massage therapist, if you were to pick up the phone and call a massage therapist because your back hurts, do you honestly care what style or what technique that massage therapist uses? It might be interesting, and if they told you and you go, I don't care, but truly, is that where the decision is made? Really, you just want to know, can you help me? And I explained that, and she said, yeah, you know what? You're right. She said, even the clients that I have, I've told them, they keep asking me, what style is that again? What style? They don't even remember. The experience they're having is what they remember, but they don't really care what technique. I said, okay, so now, with that out of the way, what makes you different? She said, oh, okay. So she went back to the drawing board. She said, first, the human body fascinates me. I'm fascinated by the human body. When your knee hurts, it's not your knee. It might be coming from your shoulder, or it might be coming from your back. It's a puzzle to me, and all I want to do is figure that out. So that's fascinating to me. She said, second, it's really important that my clients feel very comfortable on the table. So I like to create a warm atmosphere, whatever that means to them. She said, I'm like a chameleon. Like I can create a quiet place if that's what they want. If they want rock music, I'll do that. And whatever it takes, I'm in tune with my clients to create for them the experience that they need to be able to let go. I said, okay, that's cool. She said, the third thing is, I'm really passionate about removing chronic pain because so many people give up on the things that they love because of chronic pain. I said, okay, that's all really cool. Let me ask you a question. How many of the other 999 licensed massage therapists that I can drive to are fascinated by the human body, want to know me so that they can create the kind of atmosphere where I can feel comfortable and aspire to relieve my chronic pain? She said, well, probably all of them. Now, I'm sure there are varying degrees of success. They all tell you that, and then some of them deliver, some of them don't. But when you're shopping, when you're picking up the phone and calling and saying what makes you different, you can't lead with things that everybody else is going to tell you. And the same is true for us. So your first takeaway question today is, how are you different, God bless you, how are you different from every other business that does what you do in the market you do it in? Because if you can't answer that question for yourself, then how are you going to be able to answer it for the person who's inquiring? I believe this comes from your why, and we'll get to that. So let's talk about why we buy. According to the National Association of Sales Professionals, every buying decision falls under two categories. That's it. There are only two reasons why we buy anything. The first is to avoid pain or loss, and the second is to gain pleasure. That's it. Everything falls under those two categories. Even something as benign as paying your electric bill, which you clearly don't want to do, you do it because you don't want to sit in a cold house in the winter, or you don't want to be disconnected from your devices, and therefore you need the electricity to be able to give you that pleasurable experience or avoid the pain or loss of being disconnected. Everything falls under these two categories. The thing is, I'll get ahead. So here's your second takeaway question. As a result of doing business with you, what pain or loss will your clients avoid? Or what pleasure will they gain? Because everything falls under pain and pleasure. So here's the thing. The important part of this knowledge, which I'm sure you already know, is that pain and loss and pleasure are emotional motivators. These are emotional responses that we have. And yet, more often than not, when we lead with our elevator speech, we lead with the benefits and the features. We lead with logic instead of trying to touch somebody emotionally. So it looks like this. When I'm pitching somebody, I lead with my benefits and my features and my pricing and my company information and my experiences and my client base and my all of the things that are all true. And you have those too. Those are all true. The fact is, when I do that, I'm taking my prospect right to his or her brain. I'm giving them things to evaluate, things to think about. There's nothing feely in any of that. I'm giving them things to think about, and when somebody gives you things to think about, especially in a buying decision, what do? Well, we think I ought to compare those benefits and features and prices and company information and experiences, because since I'm here in my brain, you took me here, the buying decision is made logically, therefore I need to logically evaluate other options. That's not how you become an emotional buy, and that really is the point of discovering your why and applying it in your business. You're wondering, where is all this going? My hope for each of you, the most successful businesses, the easiest sales come when you can become an emotional buy. Think about that cup of coffee that you buy, maybe every day, maybe a couple of times a day, maybe several times a week. We spend $4, up to $4, for a 16-ounce cup of coffee that you can make at home for 32 cents. It's convenience, right? Or maybe there's something about that experience that makes that an emotional buy for you. You don't think twice about it. So your third takeaway question, do your customers and by proxy your prospects see you as a logical buy, or do they see you as an emotional buy, and how do you know? And I'm going to give you some things to listen for as you're pitching, as you're selling. In essence, as much as we hate to sell, we're all in the sales business. So there are clues that will help you know, am I an emotional buy or am I a logical buy? So let's talk about becoming an emotional buy. Emotional buy is not an impulse buy. Clearly not an impulse buy. You don't want to be an impulse buy. When I think about impulse buy, the easiest example is the candy bar, right? Candy bar, which we all see in the grocery store. Most often we don't give in, but occasionally we give in. We buy the candy bar, or we buy the donut. We buy that thing that has it delivers a promise. It's going to taste really good, or it's going to feel really good to eat that. The problem is the impulse buy, doesn't deliver on the promise. Think about how often you've eaten that piece of cheesecake or that candy bar, that thing that you really didn't need, and later you regret it. You either feel disgusting, or you know what I'm talking about. That's an impulse buy. If you are an impulse buy where you're selling emotion and then you don't deliver, then you won't be in business very long. So the object is not to be an impulse buy, the object is to be an emotional buy. Think about that cup of coffee. How often do you second guess buying that $4 cup of coffee? I don't know, maybe once in a while, but almost never. Almost never. Because it's a reward. It's convenient. All of those things that factor, whatever it is that factors into the decision that you made to buy that $4 cup of coffee that you could have made for 32 cents, it delivered on that promise. And therefore, it closed the loop. And that's what you need to do, and that's what we're going to talk about. Becoming an emotional buy these both begin the same way. They both start the same way. The way they begin is they sell a promise. They sell emotion. They sell emotionally, not logically, but they sell emotionally. The impulse buy doesn't close the loop. It doesn't deliver. The emotional buy closes the loop, closes the cycle. When you do that, everyone will know about it because you'll be creating raving fans. And they'll tell people about the experience that they had. Because have you ever bought something and then, boy, man, they sold me a bill of goods, right? I can't believe I fell for that. Like, I'm so stupid. If you're doing that, then likewise, everybody will know about it. That word will spread, and you won't be in business very long. So we're not trying to become an impulse buy. I want to make that point because I don't want you at all to feel like this is about selling emotion and that's the end of it. You then have to come through. You have to deliver in order to close the loop. That's how you create raving fans. So, how do you become an emotional buy? 2 steps. First step is you have to paint a vivid and emotionally compelling vision of how your product or service will deliver your customers from pain or loss, or bring them some kind of pleasurable experience. It's kind of what we were talking about, right? That cup of coffee. There's some, even if it's subconscious, there's a vision, there's an emotionally compelling vision that you have for when I buy this cup of coffee, oh, it's going to taste good, right? I sometimes think coffee is as much psychological as it is physiological. It's like, oh, I need my coffee, right? That's what we say in the morning. We don't say I want my coffee, we say I need my coffee. Coffee drinkers, you know what I mean. But if you stop there, you're an impulse buy. So in order to close the loop, the second thing you have to do is you have to then deliver on the promise that you made when you made the sale. Not only to make sure that you're not an impulse buy, but honestly, I think just ethically. If I get somebody excited about something, if I sell some promise of, here's what happens for you when you do business with me, and then I take your money and I run, I don't know, that's not something I would advocate, it's not something I would teach. So the question is, and I kind of alluded to this already, how do you do this? You do this from your why. You do this. So the great thing is, this gives you, your why gives you clarity in terms of how you are different, but it also then becomes how you paint that vivid and emotionally compelling picture for your prospects. And when we get into how to leverage your why once you've discovered it, then I'll give you some examples. So let's talk about discovering your why. How the heck do you do it? So this quote is most often attributed to Mark Twain. The two most important days in your life are the day you are born and the day you find out why. I say most often attributed to Mark Twain because for the longest time I said, oh yeah, Mark Twain once said, and then I thought, if anybody ever calls me on that and says, where did he say it or when did he say it, I don't know. So I looked up and the Mark Twain Foundation said, he never said that. It's not any of his speeches. It's not anything that he wrote. In fact, one Mark Twain author, or analyst, specialist said, that doesn't sound like something Mark Twain even would ever have thought or believed. But it works for me, and there you go. So, so I'm telling you, I said the two most important days in your life, because you can't prove that I didn't. The two most important days in your life are the day you're born and the day you discover why. Where does your why come from? To me, this is simple. In my experience, it's the essence of who you are. Your why comes from a different place. It's what you believe. It's why you love the things you love. It's why you hate the things that you don't enjoy. It makes sense of all the things that you've ever done that you're like, why does that keep happening to me? It's because of your why. Why do people keep coming to me for this? Because of your why. It's in everything that you do, and when you're not doing it, when you're not moving from your why or being true to your why or marketing or selling from your why, there's a restlessness. I have worked with CEOs, million-dollar CEOs, who are very successful by the world standards, right? They make lots of money, they've got lots of power and authority, they've got everything that we might want, those of us who don't have it, and yet they're very unhappy. I'm sure you know people like that, who are very successful but very unhappy, because what's going on the outside isn't aligned with what matters to them on the inside. That's a DNA kind of thing. So I believe that you're born with this. When I say there is greatness inside you, it's your why, it's your purpose. But how do you find it? It can feel very much like pushing a rock up a hill. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of dedication. It takes a lot of commitment. It takes a lot of self-reflection. And sometimes, shameless plug, it requires some guidance. Doesn't have to be me. It could just be anybody who knows the right questions to ask, who can pull it out of you, who can help you see that common thread through everything that you do. There are a lot of different questions that I will use as I work with people to help discover their why. I'm going to give you my 5 favorite. By the way, I think we neglected to say, I apologize, I'm the worst presenter ever. That if you would like, you don't have to necessarily take copious notes. If you'd like, you can let us know and we'll send you an electronic version of the presentation, and that way you'll have all of this. So now you can kick back and take a nap, and we'll just send it to you. I thought that would get more laughs. Thank you for the... Okay, so what brings you the greatest amount of joy and satisfaction, and why? What brings you the greatest amount of anger and frustration, or restlessness, or uneasiness, and why? What routinely brings out the strongest emotion in you, and why? What is it that sends you from 0 to 100? I have no tolerance for that. I have no patience for that. Man, I was going along, I was having a good day, and then that happened, and I was there. That's a red flag for you. There's a clue in there. There's a hint in there. What belief that you have is simply unshakable or unchangeable despite all evidence to the contrary, and why? So when I talk about that non-negotiable belief that I have, that there is greatness inside you, you could put scientific evidence in front of me that you found a class of people or a single person who actually is born without it, and I'd say, you know what, the data's wrong, check it, figure it out, because this is just something I inherently know to be true. You can't convince me otherwise. It's the kind of, I like to say, it's the kind of thing I'd get into a bar fight over, and then we can go to bars. So what's yours? What is that unshakable belief, that non-negotiable that you have, that no one can convince you otherwise? You just inherently know it. And then finally, what role do you find yourself taking on over and over and over and over, even when you're not trying to, and why? Here's what that looked like for me. I mentioned, this is a business presentation. Don't forget that. But my why is not attached to my business. My why is attached to me. So I'm doing it when I'm not at work. I would go to work and I would do this, and I would work with my clients, and I spend my work time unleashing greatness. That's my passion, okay? I go home at the end of the day, I take this off and I put my sweats on, I kick back, I'm on the couch, I'm drinking something cold, I'm watching TV, and the doorbell rings. And this happens more than you might imagine. The doorbell rings, and I go and I answer it, and it's not a door-to-door salesman. It's somebody that I know, sometimes somebody I just kind of bumped into at an event like this, standing on my doorstep saying, I need your help. Like, my life is falling apart. My wife left me, or and I have to tell you, in those really selfish moments, I'm like, I'm off the clock. I don't have time for that. I don't want to do this. And yet, I'm not going to say no. I can't. That's just me, because I know there is greatness inside that person who's standing right there. That drives my behavior. And even though I may not necessarily want to do it, those are the moments where I feel like I am where I'm supposed to be, doing what I'm supposed to do, when I'm supposed to do it, with the person that I'm supposed to do it with. It's because that's my why. They're not showing up by accident. They're showing up because I give off that vibe that that's what matters to me. You have something like that, maybe a completely different, and in fact, you may even hear my why and go, that's really weird. That's okay. It's my why. It's not yours. You have one, and it drives your behavior. What do people continue to come to you for? What do you find yourself doing over and over and over, even when you don't want to? It's a clue in there. Now, the key part of every one of these questions is, and why? Right? That's the recurring theme in all 5 of these questions. By the way, there are many more. Just for the sake of time, I thought these are kind of the heavy hitters. And why? And the reason is, it's not the answer necessarily that is important. It's the, well, why does that matter to me? So if you think about it, every question, every answer leads to another question. Okay, why does that matter to me? Okay, we answered that. Well, now why does that matter to me? That's the time and the dedication and the effort and the self-reflection and peeling back the layers to get to what really matters. I'll give you an example. This is the first question I threw up there. What brings you the greatest amount of satisfaction, and why? Now, the 4 most common answers I get to this question are justice, righteousness, law, fairness, equality. I kind of lump that under justice. That's a very common answer. Another one is money. I do everything for money. That's okay. There's no judgment. That's your why. It's fantastic. Family is another reason why, or something else that brings the greatest joy and satisfaction. By the way, different people saying the answer. It's not somebody giving multiple answers, because there really is what is the greatest amount. And then the last thing, the most common answer, is helping people. Now, that's a really broad answer. The truth is, all these are really broad answers. Let's talk about justice. Why do you care that somebody on the other side of the world is treated fairly? Why do you care? You may not. That's not your why. But some people, they don't even know. You start foundations, you start nonprofits, why? Because that's so important to me. I'm willing to give up everything else to make sure there's fairness and equality on the other side of the world where I don't even know. Why? Now, so don't just stop there. Why do you care? That's the question. Now, if family is your answer, why? What is it about your family that matters so much to you? Maybe not even your family, but all families. Or money. Is it spending money? Is it buying money? Is it saving money? Is it giving money away? What is it about money that matters to you? And then why? And the same thing for helping people. Not helping people. Why? Why do you need to help people? Why? For me, the answer is because I know there's greatness in there. So you know what that looks like for me? That means I'm drawn to the person who doesn't see it. I'm drawn to the person who is holding themselves back, who's not head up, shoulders back, walking it out. That may not be some of you in the room. That's okay. Then we're probably not the ideal client-customer for each other. But for the person who says, that's me, then there's nobody better in the world to take care of them than me. That's how I'm different from all the other business coaches. The same for you. You have a why, and it will help you articulate who your ideal customer is and how you're different from everybody else in the universe. So as you're answering these questions, the and why is really what matters. So here's your takeaway question. Nice and easy. What's your why? Again, you got to spend some time digging. You got to spend some time reflecting. When you find it, I talked about this morning in a different venue. In one sense, once you name your why, nothing changes. Nothing changes because it won't be news. You know what I've learned when you tell, let's say, the day you discover your why, you're going to want to tell everybody about it. I know my why. You're going to be super excited, I promise. You'll tell everybody around you, and you know what they're going to say? Well, duh. That's what you do. I could have told you that. You didn't need to hire some consultant to do that. I could have told you that. Because you've been doing it your whole life. It drives everything. It drives how you see things, how you do things. So it's not going to be a surprise to anybody. In that sense, nothing changes. But in another sense, everything changes. Because you have an excitement, you have a clarity. You will use it not only in your personal life, but you will use it. I just worked with somebody who discovered his why last week, and the first thing he said, he was like half terrified and half excited. He said, I have all the wrong products. He's like, what do I do with that? I said, it's like pruning a tree, right? The healthiest tree, you cut back the dead parts and it grows even bigger. You may discover your why and realize, you know what? Now I need to be doing more of this and less of this. So there's this clarity, there's this excitement, there's a sense of purpose. It changes everything in that aspect. You're not going to be doing anything differently, but you'll see everything differently. So we're going to skip ahead. This is what I alluded to earlier. We're going to assume you now have your why. You got it. You know what? Now what? How do you leverage your why? This is a business program. So, as I mentioned, I've already talked about, because your why is attached to you and not secluded or exclusive to your business, you use it everywhere. You use it in personal relationships as well, but we're not going to talk about that. For the purposes of this, we're going to talk about how do you leverage your why to grow your business, because you can, and you should. My hope is that you'll throw away your elevator speech and you'll start speaking from here. We'll talk about that. So back to here, remember the goal is to become an emotional buy, not an impulse buy, an emotional buy. So you need to paint a vivid and emotionally compelling vision of how your product or service will deliver your customers from pain or loss or bring them a pleasurable experience. Let's talk about the 3 different places where all of our messages are crafted. This is true for all of us. All of our messages are crafted from 1 of 3 places. I call them the message centers. 3 message centers. And these will make sense to you. At least the first 2 will make sense to you. First place where our messages can come from is the brain, right? This is, I go back to my elevator speech. You want to hear my elevator speech? I'm almost embarrassed to tell you my elevator speech because it was so bad. This is me humbling myself. Hi, my name is Patrick Lyons, and I'm a business coach. And I've got 20 years of experience in Fortune 1000 companies, small, medium, and large. I help companies set goals and achieve those, overcome the obstacles to achieve those goals. I have an MBA. I mean, it was bad. It was bad. No one cared. I lost people at you know, I have 20 years of experience. Oh, it's one of these speeches. When I stopped giving that speech, and there was a specific event that I won't go into because, just for the sake of time, there was a moment where I snapped. I thought, I'm so sick of giving that speech. It's awful. I hate saying it. You hate hearing it. I'm going to speak from a different place. That's the third message center. We'll talk about that. Everything changed. So, getting ahead. This is where our logic messages come from. Facts, features, benefits. From a business standpoint, your pricing, your fee structure, your, I mean, you get it. Messages that are crafted in the brain, obviously, they are intended to cause your listener to think. That's why they're crafted there. So when you give a message from your brain, you'll hear responses like, I need to think about that. Oh, you know what, let me compare, let me check this. That's a logical response to a logical message. Let me get back to you. I hadn't thought about that. That's interesting. Let me look into that. When I say let me look into that, very often it's genuine, but I also know you lost me. I'm going to forget about it later. That's like, it's just not going to happen. So if you ever hear me say that, I'm sorry. You now know. So it's not that messages crafted here are bad. It's just that messages here aren't going to get you into that emotionally compelling vision that you need to create for somebody. I can stand up here and wave my arms and dance and jump and scream about my benefits and my features and my cost and my pricing and my company information and my experience and my degree. It's not going to connect with you here. I'll just look more of an idiot than I probably already am. Second message center is the heart, right? And you know this. You feel it differently than the messages that you deliver from your brain. These have emotion and passion and energy. I mean, can you tell I'm passionate about this? There's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of energy. This is easy for me. Messages that you craft from your heart cause the listener to feel when you're connecting with them at a deeper level than here. And some of the responses you might hear is, oh yeah, that's a good idea. That would really help me. I want that. Yeah, you know what? You're speaking my language. So you can listen. Their response will tell you where your message is coming from. While this is better than trying to deliver your messages from here, sales messages from here, it's still not really where you want to be delivering the message from if you're trying to become an emotional buy. If you're trying to paint a vivid and emotionally compelling picture for somebody, then the place you do that is from your why. What makes you different? Why is it different? Why is it deeper than your heart? Because I can tell you things I'm passionate about. I am passionate about the New York Rangers. I'm a massive hockey fan. I grew up watching it. They get me off the couch. I'm screaming, I'm yelling. But I can't sell you the New York Rangers. I just can't. But if we're having a conversation and I get the slightest inkling that you have given up on yourself, you're going to see a different side of me that you have never experienced from anybody else, because I just can't let you stay there. That's just not, it's a different place for me. Your why. These messages are powerful. You're non-negotiable. You're unshakable. Instinctual awareness. Instinctual is different from instinctive. Instinctive is like baby cries because she's hungry. That's an instinct. Instinctual is more complex, where the decisions are made based on beliefs. It's a different level it's just a different level. When you speak from there, you're propelling the listener, you're causing the listener to need to act. Not want to act, but to need to act. If you've ever said, oh, I need that, then they've touched you at a different place, certainly than here, and really, certainly different from here. You get me. You understand me. I mentioned that elevator speech, which is bad. I snapped one time, and I threw it out. I made a decision. I'm never giving that again. I didn't even know what I was going to say, because I'm face-to-face with somebody, and I'm supposed to talk about my business. I'd never written it down. All I knew is that I had this why. And so I said, it was a networking thing, and we were supposed to both tell each other about our business. And I said, this is relevant to you, because my why, I mentioned this earlier, my why is all about me. So if I stopped at, I'm Patrick Lyons, and I believe there's greatness inside every single person. You'd go, good for you, buddy. What's in it for you? Nothing. It's, I believe it. You don't. Well, you might, but okay, cool. If I stop there, then I haven't painted that vivid and emotionally compelling picture of what's in it for you when you hire me and I do me. And that's what you want to do, is you want to paint that vivid and emotionally compelling picture so that when somebody hires you and you do you, what's in it for them? So I'm face-to-face with somebody at a networking event, and I literally, seconds before, I decided, that elevator speech is so bad, I've given it here, and it's just, I hate it. I'm never giving it. I didn't know what I was going to say, and I said, my name is Patrick Lyons, and I believe there's greatness inside every single person. But more often than not, when we're not achieving it, it's what's going on inside us, it's not what's going on around us. So what I do is I work with my clients to give them the tools, the tips, the tricks, the techniques, the accountability, the systems, the processes, the kick in the ass if that's what they need, the encouragement to find that greatness, to connect to it, and then to unleash it. I want to know, where are you holding yourself back, and how do we start systematically removing those obstacles to let that greatness come out? I had never written that down before, and to this day, I have never written that down. And when I say it, 80% of it is the same every time. And then the other 20% is different depending upon how I feel that day or who I'm talking to, and I've never written it down. And my encouragement to you is when you are painting that vivid and emotionally compelling picture, don't write it down. Because the minute you write it down, what are you tempted to do? Memorize it. Memorize it. Change it. Which means you're taking a message from here and you're putting it here. I've got this memorized. Wait, now I have to say it in this order. And I don't like that word, so because that doesn't sound professional, so I'm gonna tweak it. And I realize this may fly in the face of business books. I don't care. This is what works for me, and this is what works for the people that I work with. When you speak from here, I mean, could you? Don't lie to me. Did it feel different than the elevator speech? Now, thank you. Some of you, again, may hear that and go, "That's weird." Okay, cool. You're not my target client, and I'm not the right business coach for you. I can hook you up with other business coaches who are. The same goes for you when you speak from that place. And we'll talk about this at the end. People will know that you're the right person for them, or they will know you're not the right person for them. And then you just saved yourself a whole lot of time and money and energy dancing with somebody that is never going to go home again. Sorry for the weird analogy. Okay, so this is where you want to craft that message, that emotionally compelling vision of what's in it for them when they do business with you. As I was saying, if I stopped at there's greatness inside you, cool, but when I paint that picture, people hear that and go, I've had people say, I felt like everybody else was suddenly gone and you were talking right to me. I actually, the first time I gave this presentation, within 20 minutes, I had a new customer. That's not why I'm passionate about this. Oh, we all do this, right? That's why we speak, is to grow your business. But I had somebody come up and say, I never thought about hiring a business coach. I need to hire you. That's what I want for you. That's what I want for you, is to be able to connect with people at a place where they need you. Don't forget, then you have to deliver. Because if you don't, then you're an impulse buyer. And I don't want that for you. I don't want that for the people who gave you money. So here's your question. Takeaway question number 5. Do your sales and marketing messages originate in your head, in your heart, or in your why? Because there's a difference. And you may feel like, well, I don't want to seem unprofessional. Screw unprofessional. Pardon my Jersey coming out. It's not about being unprofessional. It's about connecting with people to the point where they will hire you for your services. Why? Don't be ashamed of that. Why? Because you can help them. You can help them, especially if you're moving from here, you're selling that vision, you can help them at the place that they weren't expecting anybody was going to be able to help them. You get them, you touch them, now you come through, don't feel bad about that. You just made somebody, for all you know, you changed the course of somebody's life. As silly as it might sound, when you're touching somebody here, that's powerful stuff. The most effective sales and marketing starts with your why. It's your why as a foundation, crafted then into the promise of a better future for the person who hears it. That's my encouragement to you. So, do your sales and marketing messages originate in the head, in the heart, or bring your why. It's very possible, by the way, there's no judgment, because for the longest time, mine were all head, because I thought that's what I was supposed to do, because I'm a business coach, and I have to look like I'm business. I don't even know what that means. The fact is, I have all that experience, and I can, you want to look at the P&L, we can do all that, but, and I do that. I'm not saying, by the way, that you never tell somebody what you do. You have to be able to talk about what you do. But I'm saying if you lead with that before they actually think, before they know that you get them, they're not going to be receptive to any of it. What I've found is, think about that cup of coffee. When you connect with somebody from here, they won't care about your pricing. They won't even truly care about your product. They just want to know, can you help me? Go back to the licensed massage therapist. I don't care your technique. Can you fix me? And the great thing is, here's the critical outcome of connecting with somebody here. They will assign a higher value to your products and services. They will assign, in their own mind, without doing all the comparative shopping, they will assume higher value than you could convince them if you led from here. That's what you're trying. Let them decide how valuable you are. Don't try to justify it. Does that make sense? Okay. I still have a little more. Any questions? Any thoughts? Any emotional outbursts? Anybody in the wrong meeting? Yes.
I'm in another group, and one of the gals in there is a naturopathic doctor. She said, "I've known I wanted to be a doctor since I was 10."
Okay. Yeah.
That's all I needed to know.
There's and to me, the question would be why. That's great. I don't mean why to challenge it, but why? Here's a real life example. I have a naturopathic client who, as we worked to discover her why, she got to the place where she said, "How are we doing on time, Ken? We're good." She said she realized her why, and this is based on her own experience. She said, "I have been through traditional medicine, and I felt invisible. I felt like it was get them in, write them a prescription, and get them out. And they wouldn't even ask. They didn't take the time to get to know me." She said, "So no one who comes to me will ever feel like they don't matter, like I'm not listening, like they're not important." It's her own experience. That's a vivid and compelling, emotionally compelling picture. Now, instead of standing in that, I talk about the room of 100 people, and I'll talk about that later. Instead of saying, "I'm a naturopath, and I deal with ozone therapy and natural medicines and herbs," and no one cares. Can you help me? And typically we ask that question, meaning, can you help my pain go away? Can you make this stop, or can you make this stop? But when she says that, imagine in that room of 100 people, how many people have experienced just that, where they feel like, in fact, that's what I'm experiencing right now. Like no one's listening. I can't get anybody to, I feel like they don't even believe me. When she leads with that message, it has nothing to do with being a naturopath. It has nothing to do with her degree or her experience. It's like, I need to come see you because I just want to be seen. She put those words around it. I don't want to see patients. I want to see patients. I want them to feel seen. That's powerful. That's different. Now again, you might hear it go, "I don't get it." Cool. She's probably not the right person for you. So here's your last takeaway question. From your why, what is that vivid and emotionally compelling vision of how you doing you will impact your clients? Here's why this works. Because your why touches people. It doesn't teach them about your business. We all got out of school a long time ago. We love learning, but nobody likes to be taught. We want to be touched. We do. Your why will touch people at the place where the pleasure and pain center is, where the buying decision is made. So you're moving from here to here. That's why it works. It works because talking from your why is unthreatening and authentic. If my why didn't sound authentic and genuine to you, well, I apologize. That's the essence of who I am. Yours will sound the same way. Not polished, not rehearsed, not memorized. It will sound authentic. And isn't that the biggest hurdle we have to get over when we're selling? People think, "Oh, you're just selling. You're saying this because you're just trying to take my money." I'm trying to connect with you, and if I can do that, I'm the right person for you. If I can't, then I'm not. It works because it won't sound scripted or salesy. I'm pleading with you that when you create that message, don't write it down, please. And if it comes out 10 different ways, 10 different times, fantastic. That'll keep it fresh for you. That'll keep it interesting. Don't script it. Your why inspires and moves and connects people to you in an emotional way, far more than that 20 years of business experience with an MBA. No one cares. You know, truthfully, if I'm being honest, I felt like I had to say that to justify my existence as a business coach. Like I was trying to convince you, no, I didn't go into this business because I lost my job. I actually chose this profession. Did you know that? I chose this. Who cares? Who cares? Can I help you? That's all you want to know. It's, can I help you? Your why will distinguish you from every other person who does what you do in the area that you do it in. And that's important. Because if you can't answer that question, then you're rolling the dice and you're hoping somebody ultimately hears something a little bit that maybe they decide to buy you. And then finally, because the people who desperately need you will leave understanding that they desperately need you. When I talk about the business coach, when I gave that elevator speech, nobody knew that I really have a passion for people who have given up on themselves. And it's not just person, I'm drawn to the failing business. Because there's greatness in that business, and they're getting in their own way, and how do we fix that? How do we unleash the greatness of that business, that team, that person, that division, that location, whatever it happens to be? But if we move from our elevator speech, if we move from what, then people won't hear your heart. They won't hear enough to know, I need you. That's what we're trying to do. One final thought. Your why not only makes you money, but it saves you money as well. And I alluded to this a little earlier when I was talking about the room of 100 people. I apologize for the people who were in the first meeting this morning. You're going to hear this again. In a room of 100 people, on average, 80% of them are never going to buy from you ever. They just have no interest. It's just the rule of business. 80% of them are never going to buy from you, which leaves 20% who, not all of them are going to buy, but at least there's going to be interest. And you can then dance and see who wants to go home. Problem is, you don't know who those 20% are. So I'm guilty of this. I go in and I give everybody something. I give everybody a little taste of what I do. Looking, I'm like scanning the crowd. Who's nodding? Who's smiling? Who's locked eyes? Who's looking away? And so I'm trying to give everybody something just so they maybe pique their curiosity, and then they'll pursue me, or I can seek them out and we can start that process. The problem is, because I haven't connected with anybody here, because I'm not here, then I have now engaged part of that 80%. You're guaranteed to have engaged people in that 80% of the population that's not going to buy from you, but I've engaged them because I haven't given you enough to know I'm not your guy. I've given you enough to maybe want to learn more. Now I'm in the sales process. Are you in? Am I out? What do I say? I got to get you a proposal. I'm wasting time with somebody that really is never going to buy from me. And then when we ultimately get down to, here's my passion, then they're like, oh, yeah, you know what? Thanks, I appreciate the time, off I go. So I've wasted time and money by dancing with people that were never going to buy from me. But the opposite is true as well. The 20% who really would have been interested didn't hear enough of my message. They didn't hear enough of me to know that I'm the guy for them. So that's my appeal to you, is that when you know your why, first discover it, and then remember your why is all that you, and it's okay, it should be, it's your why. Then turn that into an emotionally compelling vision of what's in it for somebody else when they hire you and you just do what you're going to do anyway. And there's another insightful thing for you. You'll do your why even when you're not going to get paid for it. Because it matters to you, because it's important to you. So when you find yourself doing something, even when it's like, yeah, okay, because it matters to you, there's some insight there. It might be, follow that path and see where that takes you. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. What questions do you have?
I don't have any questions. I want to compliment you. Well done.
Thank
Well
you.
done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Obviously, companies are very successful have figured out some sort of why in their branding, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But in order to communicate, you mentioned that, not to write it down, should companies as they move into that larger sphere, right?
Yeah.
They're national now or going international. Like at what point do you decide to write it down so that you can really capture your employees?
Yeah, that's a great question. So you're right, that message is really tailored to this. But if you think about, and you may have heard Lead with Why or Start with Why. You may have seen Simon Sinek. I consider him the godfather of why. I'm just a disciple. He does a fantastic TED Talk on, it's called Lead with Why. If you want to look him up, it's S-I-N-E-K, Simon Sinek. 20 minutes of your time, it's good stuff. And he references Apple. The funny thing is, when you really think about it, how many movies have there been about Steve Jobs? Apple's why is Steve Jobs. It's Steve Jobs' why. So even as your company grows, you can maintain that why if you vigilantly protect it, which means, so for you, as your company grows, make sure you're hiring people that A, know your why, understand it, and then are willing to live it. That should be part of the conversation. If I were to hire somebody who didn't believe in the rehab process, I love turning around a business with the exact same employees we started with. You don't fix it by firing everybody and bringing in new people, because they weren't dysfunctional the day you hired them. They were great people. If I hire somebody into my business who thinks, I don't have time for that, we gotta get rid of it, that's just, then I've confused my own message. And it's not gonna sit right with me, because no, you can't give up on these people. So it's, at what point do you write it down? I think the moment you feel like, if you go to an Apple, their orientation programs are all about, this is why we exist. This is why we're here. This is what we aspire to do for everybody. So I don't know if I answered the question, but a tipping point. I think the minute that you feel like if you feel like that message is diluted, I would just start from the very beginning. The first person you hire, then the second person, the third person, vigilantly protect it, because it's very easy to let it can be out of control before you realize it. Hard to recover. Sorry, I had a question.
Just a comment on your Apple observation. John Scully is living proof that Apple was Steve Jobs.
Yeah, that's right. Did everybody understand that? Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff. What other questions do you have? Okay. Shameless plug. That's good. This is me. I didn't lead with this because the truth is you wouldn't have cared until the end anyway. If I hadn't connected with you, you still wouldn't care, so it's okay. My clients have named me the Why Coach, and I reluctantly took it on. It didn't sound very good in the beginning. I'm like, the Why Coach? But now I love it. I do. I'm passionate about helping people discover the why. That's all my contact information, should you want any of it. And then I mentioned I have a small business group coaching program. You can find out more at smallbusinessrocketship.com. And if you do /kit, you can instantly get, here's our lead capture. You're in the marketing business, so you get it. You can instantly get 3 resources to help you and your small business right now. And then you get a 7-day video series, the 7 mistakes that are killing your small business. That is all I have. No pressure, no automation. And I'm serious about this. This is not like some fluffy ending. Figure out what is it about you and unleash it. Go kill it, because it's there.